Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Today it's a little watercolor. It's the last one of 2020, so let's get on and let's see what happens. Hi everybody, welcome back. As I said at the start, it is the last video of 2020. It's actually one I had not planned on doing at all. I felt that the one I did on Christmas Eve was going to be the last one of the year. And then I sat back over Christmas and thought that I really wanted to just round the year out and thank each and every one of you for your help, and also thank each and every one of you for your support, and wish each and every one of you a fantastic new year. So I decided to do this little watercolor, very impromptu, and before I do, I will take that opportunity to really round out and saying thank you to everybody, because this video channel was started middle of 2019, and I have put out a video every Friday ever since. And I've also, more recent months since we've been in our first lockdown, been doing live streams every Monday, and for my patrons every Friday too. So it's a constant source of work. I've had to reinvent myself since lockdown and create a whole new schedule of the way I operate as an artist, and also still maintaining my gallery and my teaching facility down in Hythe where I work during times when we could open up and teach people. But for the moreover, we are now back in lockdown, and so I am sort of concentrating purely on the channels and the Patreon and moving forward into the new year. So I just wanted to take this time to say thank you to everybody. Without your support, all this work would be pointless, and I just want to get out there and reach so many more people. So the more people that subscribe and like and do all those things and add comments, so it really helps the channel grow. And a lot of you have been doing that, and I really am thankful for that. So thank you again for that. I'm doing a lot of thanking for that, but you know what I mean. And I just also wanted to say that I've got so much planned for 2021. I do hope that I can find the time to do half of those things that I really love to do. And I just also wanted to thank all my patrons, because you guys, you help put some pennies in the pocket that help finance all the efforts that I do to create more and more content. So I really thank you for that. So without further ado, let me just wind up this monologue before it gets too boring, and just wish each and every one of you a very happy, a very safe, but very prosperous and happy painting 2021. Guys, thank you so much, and I look forward to your company in the future, in future videos, on future live streams, and maybe even as future patrons, who knows. But I love to have you there, and I love to have you on the channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get in and do this little watercolor. It's of a snow scene. It's the allotments. I've been doing the allotments on previous paintings, but these ones are in snow, so I thought it was a nice and appropriate ending to 2020 and ushering in 2021. Take care, guys. Happy New Year. All the best. Bye-bye. Right, I hope this is going to be a fairly quick watercolor. I just wanted to do something to give to you guys, just to sort of say thanks for the support over the year, and also to bring sort of 2020 to an end, which I'm probably sure we're all fairly grateful for. It's not been a great year for any of us, but I'm just going to do this quick little study of well, I've done similar things before, but this is of a one of our local allotment sheds near to where I live. Actually, it's in Hythe, near to where my gallery is, more over than where I'm living. So I just thought I would put this in. Quick little piece of information regarding to an allotment in the snow. So let's hope it works out. But I don't want it to be laboured. Some of my watercolours can be quite lengthy, and I just wanted to do something that was fairly fast. And I put in a little shed way off in the background there, going off camera or out of the picture as such, down there, just as a little light area. And there's lots of information fencing through here. We'll just put that in very, very quickly like so. I don't want to put too much in, as I said. I just want this to be a very, very quick study. Nice. Way up in there, actually. It's a little taller. Let's bring that down through there. Very thin door. These sheds are only something like 6 by 4. They're very tiny little sheds. But they're enough to keep the person's allotment tools in and bits and pieces that he needs for growing produce throughout the year. But of course, this time of year it's pretty much only things like brassicas and such that are still in the ground. But let's try and get this in fairly fast. I don't want to go too much with the drawing, just enough to give you the sense. There's a lovely car shadow, I mustn't forget that. Beautiful shadow going across there. Let's just put the sides in a bit more definitely. Then we've got a little fence. I'm not going to draw, I'm just going to suggest them in very, very quickly. I'm not going to try and draw too much of that. Then we've got a, well, the first one's a post, so let's just put that in. The end one here is a post also. Put that in. And then we've got posts that go across, segmenting one allotment from another. And there's lots of bits and pieces in here in the ground which we can just put in, suggesting a little bit of growth. And I don't want to come across this too much. There is a little bit of board work in the front of the shed here, and then we've got this nice little raised bed that someone's put in to put that in. So we're going to put that into the snow like so, and the rest of this is just little bits of brassica and other bits and pieces in the snow, and the rest of this is pretty much going to be a little bit of blue, a little bit of light colour, just to make that really sing. And if I can, I will quickly put in another shed through here, which is turned on the other direction like so, just to suggest that in there. Can't quite see the door, but there is a little window which I'm going to put in like so. Very, very quickly sketched out. Hopefully it looks about right. And hopefully you can get something from this to take on with. And now I could mask out these poles. I'm not really going to bother. I'm just going to... There's a couple of things I could do, but I don't think I'm going to really worry about the poles at all. I might just put them in once it's all dry with a little bit of body colour, something of that nature. But I don't really need to worry too much. I'm going to put maybe a couple more posts that are in further away, just to give that a little bit of depth. And that's it, that's the drawing done. So let's get started with some colour. Now my colour, I'm going to be using my synthetic, my new sets of red dot brushes from Rosemary and Company. I love these brushes. That's not one of them though. That definitely is one. I've got to check. They are so good compared to the old brushes that I used. Then let's see, that's a Sable, and you know there's a little colour difference, but you have got to watch for them. Right, let's find the ones that I'm looking for. So there's a nice sword liner. I love these sword liners, they're so much fun. Let's take these bigger hakes out of it so I can see wood for the trees. And there we go. Okay, we've got 3 brushes. We don't really need too much more than that. And I'm going to come in with some dark. I'm going to use some of the colour up that's already on my palette. Put a red into that, or orangey red. And I want to keep it fairly cool. And I want to put in a little bit of light beyond that. So I am possibly thinking that I might just come across here. And let's just put in a very pale ultramarine blue. Just a very pale wash. And I'm going to really start that, just put a little bit through there, and it is pale. It's just to influence the paper, nothing more than that. I'm going to leave the shed out of it, just come down here, down across this area, and it doesn't matter if I don't go all the way to the outer edges. That doesn't really worry me. I just want to put in this lovely blue influence into some of these bits of snow through here, like so. Take it all the way through the fence line. Leave little patches of white because obviously the snow has got highlight as well. So we're going to leave that, and then if we want to, I'm going to come down here with a little bit of violet into that. A little bit of ultramarine violet. Just bring that in through the base here. Just take this up a little bit this way and just let that influence merely the bottom of the picture. Bring a few pieces in here by all means that are very suggestive. You can add to those, but essentially we want to leave as much white paper as we possibly can. So that's going to be pretty much our snow done. Although we will just enhance some of the blue shadows further in. But that's all I want to do. I'm going to let that dry off and we'll come back. Okay, moving swiftly forward then, I'm going to come back to this mix with the blues and the reds, and I'm just going to put in a little bit of sienna into that too, into that bluey colour, just to influence that dark, nice big dark area there. And I'm going to come down across this area, which are the trees in the background. Now I am definitely going to leave one or two little bits of light coming through, and that's one of the reasons I put the blue in, just to give me sky holes in some of these trees in the distance. So deliberately leaving one or two marks, little slits of colour, suggested lights coming through there, and as it comes down then it can thicken up, of course, because there are no sky holes further down. So we can bring those two ahead and join them all together as we then come down to the side of this shed, down to the roof. Leave those areas there. Bring it all the way down. We're going to add to the background. This is by no means the end of it. Take that through and all the way down. And to isolate this little shed here too, I don't want to come across that one, so I'm going to come down, take that round and into there, like so, and the same down this side of it, just enough. We can isolate. That's going to actually, what actually we can come down through that, it's the face that I need to isolate. The this side here will be in much greater shadow. And I'm going to leave the top of that barb there. I'm going to come through, if I got it right now, I can come down a little further. There we are. Just take that down there. Very quick. I'm going drying out a little bit. Take that down to there. And that's probably more than enough because there's a lot of debris in there and we don't want to lose all our potential snowy effects. So that's going to be there. And this one will come down further. I don't want to let it dry up, and it is in dire close situation. It could dry up on me and it could leave me a hard line. If it does, and you can see that this is starting to flood back and create unsightly marks, not a big problem because we're going to go over anyway with a darker flush of colours onto the trees. So if it does start to build this ugly mark, don't fret over it because we can get out of that quite simply. I'm just going to come down as fast as I can into this area now. This is going to be darker down here anyway, so whatever happens up in here, we can play around with this even now and just join the two areas together a little bit more so that we actually head off a little bit of that trouble. And at the same time, you can come in with a little bit of indigo, a bit more of sienna. I think that's sienna. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about that at all. But I'm going to drop in, while we're still damp in here, let's drop in some of those darker colours just to give an idea of where we want to take that. And I'm going to come in with some yellow ochre. And I'm just going to bring that through this part of the ground, which is where we've got a lot of debris. And I'm going to use some negative space now just to suggest that there is a little bit of snow against that shed, one or two places, suggesting that there's weed growth and stuff there before we take this all the way through here now. A little bit warm, a little bit lively in terms of colour, but if we want to address that, we can come in with a bit of this cooler colour, a little bit of the more drab reddy brown colours that got a little bit of blue into it too, just to cool some of that off. Just spread that around a little bit, even tap some back just to take some of the excess water out of it and just soften what you're seeing. Works very, very well. Let that come all the way along. You can actually wet this edge up even more than this. Just take this all the way through here, just tap it back and just soften all that as it descends on and into the foreground areas. Just take that up there a little bit stronger, like so. Okay, now right, let's very quickly come back in with the dark. While we got moisture in here before it dries up, let's come back and make a concerted effort into some of the blues. You can see how bad I am with my colours. I just mix straight into them, which is terrible really. And that is the wrong blue. So let's come in with some indigo. There we go. Mix some of that red into there, bring that over. We've got more darks and we can just drop that in and let that play around and do what it wants to in the background. Like so. We can then put some of our little tree forms in further in, not a problem, or we can just drop colour in as it is now, as it's drying up. But the dark will then isolate that shed. We can actually add maybe a little bit of green into that as well. You don't actually see it too much as green. I'm just going to suggest a few sort of trees, shapes and forms, trunks coming down that you can't quite make the start or finish of, but they are there, like so. Just mix it all up a little bit. Take that through here. Being careful of our little shed, don't want to get clumsy and lose it, like so. Maybe one or two warmer marks there. A few flicks, a few more definite shapes. As we've got a bit drier paper here, we can just put in a suggestive few marks that could be other trees. Take that all the way there. Okay, we'll leave that at that. Let's come back in here, put some more colour in before we dry it up. Just vary some of these marks. Put some lovely siennas in as well. Warms. Lovely warm colours. Now I know the photograph that's on here doesn't really suggest too much of this heavy warmth, but it really does work nicely. You can just mix up the darks in the foliage and the trees that are well behind all of this. Maybe even just drop some pure blues in. No mixing, just mix this on the paper. Just allowing the spread naturally of the pigment within the pigment. And when that dries out, it will dry lighter, of course, and it will also give you lots of lovely little variations and forms in the foliage and what you're seeing and what you're looking at. Without trying too hard, you can already see that there are little variations in marks and colours. Can put a little bit of that warmth through this side. It's a little bit of devoid of colour, so we're going to add to that quickly. Just drop some in and tidy up the edge of this shed roof with that colour too. You're going to take that all the way down through there like that. Okay, and let that come down the side, giving it continuation down to the edge, underneath the eaves and across to this one here. And by all means just take that off or add to it as you feel. Quite like that. Going to drop a little bit blue in one or two places, a little bit of cobalt blue popping in. Very similar to what we did on this side, like so. Working as fast as I can, trying to make this as spontaneous as I can. Like that. Okay, now if you feel that there is too much of a starkness there, put a little bit of the yellow or whatever back on the end of the brush, a little softness, and you will soon find that you will lose that. You can lose that there also. There we are. And let that come down and just end up as nothing really. It can just become just a very, very soft transition. If also you feel that the lights here are too hard, just damp them off with a brush and lose some of them. You won't lose them all, just lose and soften some of the marks so they're not as strong. They may appear strong in your photographic reference, but they shouldn't really be so out there that they create a hard edge, because otherwise the viewer's eye will be drawn to them, and that's not necessarily what you intend. Let that dry off and we can come in with a bit more. Don't want it dry totally, just a little bit. Alright, let's come in with our shed. I'm going to dry this off now and we'll come back in with the sheds. Okay, we're nice and dry and ready. I'm going to come down a smaller brush, and this one is a number 5 as it happens, and I'm just going to come in with some initial green colours. So I'm going to mix in some of my one of my turquoise colours. I'm going to mix it into the same colour batch that I've been using, so it's still a dirty drab colour, but that will give me more and more green influence. I will put a lighter side to this. Let's just come in first and foremost. Let's just put in the darker side of the building, come around the window, take it all the way down. In fact, you know, I probably could come all the way through with that and lighten up. So I'm going to do just that. Put a bit more green, come all the way into the face of the shed, bring it all the way down through to the ground. Easily done, like so. And taking it all the way through to the side. Now we've got a bit of a table or something here which I did put in. I'm just going to take that all the way through. Little bits of snow that are maybe underneath the table there, just catching it. A little bit of light there. Take that down to the ground. There's going to be a lot of dark in here, so don't worry too much about that. Come across here with this colour on here, down the side. Very, very quickly pushed in and across there on the window. Take it all the way down a little bit. Leave that top of that table. Might be able to do what I want to do with that in a moment. Take that down, and we've got that nice blue or deep blue. And I use some of this bit more cobalt influence in there. Just that nice sort of, I don't know what it is. A water container, a barrel, something of that nature that's laying to one side. I'll put that in. Not worried about the bleed because we're going to get darker in there anyway, so that won't worry. There's a little bit of green on a shed there which is not in our pictures. I'm going to put a bit of green influence on our little shed back here though. Give that its own little colour. And I did bring down some dark down the back here, so I'm going to just do that, leave a little bit of light on the edge of the shed, like so. Let that two areas meet. Now that isn't really what I wanted to do. It would have been nicer to have had that spot on, but I'm not unduly worried. We can play around with that later on. So we've got our shed in. We're going to put in a little bit of light colour on this shed over here. This has got a much lighter influence to it, but it is in shadow on this side, so we will put the same colour in there, and there's a nice green colour to the top of the roof. Now for that I will just lift off so that we only end up with a stain on the front of this shed, taking off as much moisture and colour off as I can, so we just get a lovely stain, and that will dry up a lot lighter once it's ready to finish off. Okay, that will do. We've set that one up also. So now I will come in with some dark. I'm going to use some more of this green and make a bit of dirty old colour from it. I'm going to come in with some indigo, some of the green, and a little bit of that burnt sienna, making a dirty colour for the fences here. So I'm going to put in just a nice stark. I did say that I wasn't drawing this out, and I really am not. I'm just putting in sort of fence lat shapes of wood that hopefully suggest that that's what they are. And then I'm going to put in the bit that goes across and joins the fence all together, and a little dark down the side of what will be the post, and on this post also. And then we've got a bit at the bottom. Let's bring that down there. So continue these down. Maybe that's not a little bit rotten at the bottom. I'm not saying it is, it's just my painting. So I'm going to bring that across there, and then we've got the angles here that just make the fence complete, and the supports. Now that is going to dry lighter. Maybe I should have come in with a little bit stronger colour to begin with. I'm not overly fussed on that, I really am not. I'm just going to come in now with a couple more posts. There's little ones further back here, and another one maybe there, and in there. And we're going to put another barrel in a moment, but we've got posts, and I'm going to put another one in there. Some sort of marker post between the two. Let's just for good measure put another one in there. That has linked to that one, and this one can carry on by. Okay, nice and strong. Alright, okay, so let's just put in a little bit of yellow ochre to some of the screen. We're really just mixing up a whole series of grey colour. And I'm just going to put in what will be the sort of base of by the shed, a little bit of a footpath there. Just going to take that through. Maybe introduce a little bit more yellow to that. Just give that a nice bit of a variation across the front of the shed. Down to that mark there, let that dry up. And let's just take the sides of this here. Uneven here. We've got a nice little area where we've got the snow. Take that up to there. I'm going to lift a little bit out there. Let it dry. I'm going to do the same on this side. Same colour. This is the raised bed, and I want to suggest the snow inside of it, so I'm going to leave a lot of white there, and then we've got a darker value, a bit more green, a little bit of the raw sienna, and let's just put in a darker value here to the edge of that. And it's going to spread a little bit. I'm not, as I say, I keep saying this, I'm not overly worried by that. And although I haven't put the second one from the picture, I'm just going to come in with that edge there. And that is our little box shape. Take that all through there. So we've got now a boxed growing area, as it were. Alright, now I'm going to come in with some of this warm value. Just checking how dry my shed side is. I think it's okay to go. I'm going to put in a look for a little table, like so, and all the way through there. That's pretty much in shade anyway. There is a bit of light, which I will admit I've missed. I'm going to try and lift a little bit out there, just to indicate that little bit of light on that leg of the table. There's a little bit further down here as well, and hopefully that will give me enough light once it's dried to finish the job. Okay, so let's just move back to where we were and see how much we've still got to do, and let that area dry up. And it's nicely fused. I do like this fusion down the bottom here. That really does work. So now then, there are a few man-made objects, so let's just come in, mix some of this blue up, a little bit of cobalt, and let's just suggest a few bits of stuff that are laying in the snow. Give this a little bit more colour as a result. I don't know what half these things could be, but really it doesn't matter. This is just sort of stuff that is, you know, water pipe. I'm not going to put that in. I'm going to leave that as is. Just maybe something, a bucket or something there. And I'm going to come in with a darker mass of the blue to suggest one of these buckets that are upturned in the distance there. Put that there. Got a nice light sign. We're going to put that in there, and I think it would help just to make something a little bit similar to it there. Okay, now damp brush, let's just take off this side. So we've got a lovely light fusion down there, and the same on this part here. Nice light fusion down there, and we've got two little objects placed out there that buckets, dustbins, whatever they are. I'm going to put a little bit of indigo together and some of the burnt sienna, making a really warm, rich dark. And I'm just going to come and suggest a few bits on our fence, making that a little stronger. Still damp, so it's going to accept everything quite nicely. Like so, taking that down just gives that another layer of depth. Strong mark, like so. I really got to let that dry off now. Don't want that there. Okay, so I've got a little light colour to come in across here on our fence. I'm going to take that down, and I think that's the only one. We're going to let that sort of disappear into the snow, and I will give that a bit of a cooler shadow while we're at it. Like that. That's nice. Okay, now we've pretty much done all the sort of basics. I'm going to come in with a nice shadow across this table and through there. We've got a nice edge to that, taking it to there, and I'm going to come underneath. We've got a lot of dark in the shed, so I'm going to isolate those legs by doing that. I'm putting that in there, tapping a little bit more carefully and hesitantly as I come through here, that way isolating the shed away from the table, like so. And then we can start bringing it up. I'm not going to get involved with doing all the slats. I'm really not going to. I might just suggest one or two like so coming up, but I'm not really interested in making all the individual boards across this, like so. That's enough. But I really think I've got to come in a lot darker anyway, so I'm going to come back in with some greens, some phthalo green, and I really am going to come in and I'm going to really set the side of this shed up because it wasn't dark enough. So we're going to take that all the way down, and we're going to take that all the way on this side, and that really brings it forward in that background, which is really nice. And I can always go back in with a slightly darker value if I want to start suggesting these boards that are part of the construction of the shed. For the moment I'm not that worried about it. I come in here with the side of this shed way back here. I'm going to leave the roof the colour that it is, and that's fine. Now I want to come in with a much darker, moodier indigo, and I'm going to come in with some, maybe a little bit of alizarin, giving it more violet colour. And I'm going to give that into that dark shape of this barrel that's here. And this time where I went there and lightened it up, I'm going to lighten it this way into that paler blue so that we get a sense of the roundness of this very quickly. And I'm going to bring some green, some phthalo green into that now, making a darker, dirtier blue. And I'm going to come in with a much stronger presence of phthalo green on the side of the shed in here. Taking it there. And now, if I want to, I can just tap in a few suggestive marks that are suggestive that there is planking, boards going across the entirety. I've gone straight into my table. Didn't mean to do that. Let's try and come out of there and save the day on that one. Just taking it down underneath the table into those legs, define the shape. There we are, pretty much sorted. Now from there I want to get some pure ultramarine going, and I want to come off of the back end here with some of the shadow, which is the shadow snow, right along here before we come out into the sunshine. I'm going to leave that there, and 1 or 2 taps. There are posts and fences which I actually have forgotten to put in. I'm just going to, I want to get this lovely colour in first. Lovely rich blue, and tap a little bit of green and a little bit of cobalt into that, just to give it a variation. Taking it up to about there. I think there's a lot of dark stuff there, a lot of debris. I don't know quite what it is, but I'm not going to use it. Just going to come all the way down to the edge of this board, and then I'm going to let it feather off as though there's a little bit of light just creeping into the bottom area there, and that gives me a nice shadow side to the shed too. Now for the area here, there is a bit of light and a little bit of blue in 1 or 2 places. There is just a suggestion of a shadow under there, which we can put in, and that gives us that nice area down the side of that board. There is a little bit of shadow under here, which we're going to now put in. And already we're starting to build the 3-dimensional look that we're looking for in this shed. There is going to be a little bit more green, a little less dark than the one there. I'm just going to come in and put the door in place of this shed. Let's just put that in. Not worried if it goes all the way to the bottom. It's just so that I've got a different value of that green in representing that door. Now I'm going to use some of this colour here just to put in a light area on the end of that shed, but much paler than the surrounding. Let that dry off, and that should do exactly what I want it to do in the background. We've done this one, but let's come in with maybe a little warmer, maybe a little bit of burnt sienna into the end of this shed. Nice big strong dark statement there, taking it all the way down like so, and then we can lose that negative space into the area of the ground. Let's get rid of that little white mark there. Let's take the dark to the edge like so, and we're going to put eaves and other bits and pieces in. Got a little dark mark in here for the window. It's sort of in not getting a lot of light to suggest reflection, whereas this one I'm waiting to do because it does. I put a little bit of, that's very wet there, so I've got to wait for that to happen. So we'll come back into that area very shortly. I'm going to put a little pale green tinge with the blue as part of this roof on here, which is nice, and it's a nice contrast against all those reds and oranges behind it. So there's our roof. Got to wait for it to dry. I'm going to bring it all the way through the end barge board here, and on this one here too. Take that down through there, lift a little off there and there, take it all the way down if you want to, it's not a problem. Don't let it get into, don't let it touch any of this, or you'll have a massive bleed on your hands. You don't really want that at all. I suggest a little bit of a doorway on that one back there, and that's all it needs. This can be lightened, I think, a little bit in hindsight, so let's just take a bit of dampness to there, tap it off, and that gives us a little light edge to that. I feel that that was a little darker than I really had anticipated, but I can't do much with that now, so I'm going to leave that as is. Going to dry up now and we'll carry on. Okay, so what I feel is this area needs to be darker, so I'm going to come in with some indigo, kind of make quite a good mix of it, but I want to come in with a lot of burnt sienna and just mix those two together, give me a really rich, lovely dark brown colour. I'm just going to come in and isolate around some of these shapes, just redefine the edge of that barn, that shed there anyway, Just going to break it off into this area so that it sort of dissipates into nothingness. I just want a lot more dark happening into some of this area. Let that come all the way up to the edge of that shed and just break it down. Don't go too mad like I just done on the ferrule of your brush. You will not do it any favors. Like so. Maybe even richer. Maybe a little bit more redness in there from the Sienna. Carefully cut round the shed. You don't want to lose that at this stage. Take that through the roof. Nice. So let that come up and build into various little aspects. Now you've got to work pretty fast because otherwise you'll get dried up hard edges. So I'm just going to put this dark in, dropping a little bit other colours in and around it. Take some of it up in a moment. Just want it to dissipate almost to nothing. Go to a bigger brush now, dampen that off, and just gently tap in and mix some of these together. Don't over wet the paper, you'll end up with big trouble. Just trying to blend that off like so. Dampen it off again, just take some of this away so it looks very, very natural. That's the idea. Even take some of this way up into here just to give it a bit of variation. Maybe even one or two tree stem, trunks, what I'm trying to say. Tree trunks in the distance. Just very, very suggestive of more information, more detail without actually doing too much to create it. Make sure some of your tree trunks, if you're putting them in, go different ways. Now if you want that hard edge, that's fine. I don't. I'm just going to soften that with the dampness of the brush. Soften it down this side too with the dampness of a brush before it dries up hard on me. I think that's the desired effect. And now I've got this much darker area going on, and I want to do the same on this side just to give them, the two areas, some unity. I'm going to bring that right the way across there, and again I'm using the brush to dissipate the edges and using a dampness, just let it just disappear and create more trees over here if you wish to, just giving it a sense of a woodland beyond there, which of course it is. Vary some of the marks, taper some of those off so they disappear in the loads of undergrowth through there, like so. Hundreds of trees in this area. It's a beautiful place to go and walk the dogs, and it's managed to the best for wildlife, which is great to see. There we are. Okay, so we've now created a more depth in there, which throws everything in the sunlight so much more forward. I'm just going to come in, I'm going to put another dark area to this in here, leaving a little light edge, and I don't mind if it fuses with the other bit, but starts to disappear into the background. That's fine too. Bring that down. And deliberately then, just actually making that disappear. Just tapping one or two lights over the top, encouraging the suggestion that it's sort of going off into the heights of the canopy. Almost scratching around, almost. There is purpose to the scratching around, but you get the idea. It's just sort of moving the paint, almost dry brush, so that you create lots of lovely little suggestive marks of trees and growth and all that in the distance. I think that's pretty much done. I just saw that and I wanted to do a little bit more before we finished off. And it gives me a chance to allow this area to dry up. And I want to come back in with maybe a little bit of cool. So I'm going to put some cobalt back into our greens. But I want to put a little bit of violet too. Just going to check that colour. I think that will work. And I just want to put in our cast shadow across the face here of the shed. Now it's sort of, you can see the little slats at the fence as it's coming down. Like so. Mine's not quite in the way of the photo, but I think we've got away with it enough just to suggest the nice fence, and let that come all the way down through. There are one or two little light patches still popping out, but we'll leave that. Quite happy with that. Take that cast shadow up a little higher here because it's gone a little bit awry on the shape. Should be a nice straight line, and I've actually missed that, but I'm not going to try and change it. I'm just going to just build it out a little bit more, like so. Okay, that's fine, not too worried about that. Let that come all the way across. As it comes away though, it will sort of lighten up a little bit. So let's just take some of these back out, just suggestive, but we've still got that nice cast shadow. And we've got a much dark, going to put some red into that, some darks into that, and we're going to have a nice bit of shadow underneath here to meet up with it. And we're going to come across, and that's that. We've got some nice edges to the bits of old, whatever they are, slabs. I have no idea. I guess they're just old slabs, like so. Bits of information. A little bit of dark on some of that table, and a little bit of shadow on the leg underneath, giving it some form. Lost a little bit of information. It's not the end of the world. Just a little bit of there, and just suggesting that there is an edge. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to use that same dark now to come down the edges of the door. So let's just put a little bit of detail down through there on our door, across the top like so, and down this side of our door. And if you want to, you can, I'm not bothered, but you can put these in if you want to as well. Try and make them marry up across. I'm probably doing a very bad job, but you get the idea. They do need to go in the right place, of course, but you get the idea. Let me come up here to put a bit of dark, and come back with a bit of red, blue, and let's come in with a very dark statement underneath there and along the edge of the roof. Now we've got a dark but warm dark, so I'm going to come with some Indian red. I'm going to come across here with this dark sort of bitumen type thing on the top of the roof, and that will be pretty much what we need to, all we need to do to that part of the roof before we complete. Take that through there, that down. There is some darks over on this roof, going to put that in, and I still feel that I want to put more darks in there. I'm not going to go too mad with that. We've got our fencing now. I actually have lost our fencing. I'm just going to put in a suggested couple of marks through here, and maybe a suggestion of a post holding this stuff up there, and I might just glaze a little bit of colour onto some of those marks further along. Alright, it's the only bit that really doesn't make too much sense, but it is there. I come in with some little bits of dark and mud underneath to support what this barrel is sitting on, and little bits of dirt and stuff. There's quite a bit of dark under there, so let's just put that in very, very quickly. Make sure that post is adequate. Okay. And we're sort of closing in for the kill on this one now, and I want to put in some little dark statements around on shadowing under this roof on this old shed over here, around the window. I'm going to come across there like so, tap that with my finger, and hopefully I don't damage it too much, but there's my roof and the edge and the different forms there, and a couple of, if you want to put in some of the timbers, you can suggest those too if you wish. Just is enough, don't need too much. There's a little bit on the end of this one which you can just put in. Okay, so we are really coming to the end of this. We have now got to clean up and go in with some lovely blues and some lovely darks for the other bits and pieces. So my blues are going to be a mix of ultramarine and cobalt. See how that goes, and I'm going to come in with that with a little bit of violet too, a little bit of alizarin to come into that. And let's just pop in and put some of that could be maybe a little bit too strong, a bit more cobalt. Just come in, and I want to sort of mix into some of these areas with some lovely blue violets, suggesting the clumps of shadow created by the brassicas that are still growing during the course of the winter. So I'm going to bring that through. I'm not trying to replicate exactly what's in the photo, merely trying to suggest what's around. Now I'm going to look up here. There is maybe a little bit of shadow off of some of this, maybe too much there, and a little bit of shadow off of there, and maybe one or two shadows off of these bits of fence that we can't actually see so much. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to put in there and suggesting that shadows that way, so it's coming down along the edge there. There's a lot of grassy stuff going there, so it's hard to see exactly where that shadow might be. But I'm going to suggest that's coming this way, and this one too. And that one's coming in to join that part. And that one there, just running in a little bit of a sort of shadow along a ridge line that may well be about. Just suggesting 1 and 2 there to give them a bit of connection to the ground. And there's going to be a little bit along here, along underneath some of this growth that's running through the background like so. Nothing serious, just little bits, just suggesting contours within the snow like so, giving the ground a breaking up of the area. But you've got lots of bits and pieces of snow happening, and that's great. And I'm going to come along and finish this area off very, very quickly. Maybe a little bit there because there's some other bits and pieces that are growing out. Maybe bring some down there. There's a little bit of growth of stuff, weeds and stuff up in there. And leave that nice line of light there if I can. I'm going to put a little bit of green in there as well. Okay, last bits. And we're going to bring a little bit of area in here. There's 1 or 2 bits and pieces of, I don't know quite what that is growing there. And just 1 or 2 little taps in there, suggesting of 1 or 2 things. Coming back in with that violet colour, this is a little bit of, I think it's magenta, I'm not sure. I must remember to keep looking at the colours that I've got laid out. I just want to come in here and suggest, now I'm going to use the bigger brush, and I'm just going to suggest that we've got that lovely warmth right in the bottom here. More blue. Tap of the violet, just bring that in like so, turn it upside down for just a second and just let that run out almost to nothing. Take a lot of dampness out of the brush. It's a bit of a wash, it's a bit of a nothing really, it's just adding weight to the bottom of the picture like so. I don't think it needs any more really than that. I'm just going to bring 1 or 2 of these marks down just to meet it. And they will just dissipate within the flow of the wash itself like so. Okay, that's enough. Got to let that dry, and we'll just put the greens in and we're done. Okay, for this part I will be using this one, the number 5, and my lovely sword liner. I love and wait to get a hold of that and get going with it. Okay, so now I am going to take these mixes out of the pan, leave that one, let's just come in with this one, clean it out, some more paper. And we are going to make a lovely set of greens. Now, I love these turquoises, and I'm going to use that predominantly. I have got another green which is Phithalo Green, but I do love these turquoises. I'm going to make a couple of piles, and to those I'm going to put in a little bit of yellow, cadmium yellow into one, and a little bit of Naples yellow, a little opaque colour going into this one, and I'm just going to come in and just tap around, suggesting some of these sort of brassica type things just quickly, like so, just little bits of growth. And maybe there's a little bit of green coming in through there, which we can just tap in 1 or 2 bits and in through there. Just 1 or 2 bits of grasses just poking up through the snow close by. Take on and bring some of this over in here. I'm not quite sure. I'm not going to try and draw brassica leaves. In fact, there is quite a distinct sort of yellowing on 1 or 2 of them. I'm going to bring some raw sienna into that mix too, just to break some of those greens out. And once that's dry, we can then actually pop in 1 or 2 darker marks just to give the shadows and such to these greens that we've got in here, like that. Actually, I can use some of this as well, just to bring that back to life and drop some of those darker marks in. That's good, that works. Bring some of those in while it's still damp so they start fusing together, like so. 1 or 2 darks up in here. Under there, 1 or 2 darks coming into there, and a bit of dark. I'm going to actually make some more darks. I'm going to come in with some Ultramarine Blue. This time I'm going to put a little bit of Umber into that, or Sepia actually, not Umber. Just dropping that in so we get a nice strong darks in 1 or 2 places, and bring that down into some of these little blue areas. Like that. There's quite a bit coming on down here, which I'm not actually going to put too much of that in. Just going to bring 1 or 2 taps of darks into some of these. A bit of warmth. There's green. It started off green, but it's actually turning into many other colours right now. Can I bring some of this? I don't know what this is at all. I'm going to use some green influence in that too, but just, I don't know, it's so low growing and I don't know what they are, but I'm just going to put 1 or 2 into the snow, like so, sticking through 1 or 2 places, and that real contrast of the darks and the lights really punch. They really do good. I think that's half the time why we love snowy scenes, certainly in paintings, because you've got all these huge contrasts happening in the ground. You know, when these dark marks hit those beautiful blues and lovely warm colours. You could have left this white as I've done, or you could have indeed gone in there with a very pale peachy wash, but it can quite heavily influence your blues. So it's doable, but there is always a trade-off. There is always a cost to that. But it's not the end of the world to just leave the white paper. And to me, there are certain people like Edward Seago who were fantastic exponents at doing just that. Putting stuff in, creating whole scenes with this beautiful use of untouched white watercolour paper left to really show off the highlights, and they were masters at it, or he was certainly a master at it. There are many others too, but I'm just tapping in now. I may as well get my sword liner out and let that do some work too. So here we've got the tip of the sword liner, a little bit of fluff on the end of it, and just going to bring in and make that sort of do 1 or 2 lovely little marks in the snow, like so. Little bits of grasses flicking around, and over this side we've got quite a bit. Let's put in a little bit of old sticks or something. I don't know what they would have been. Just 1 or 2 darker marks there in this growing bed. There you go, that sorts that out. And where else do I need to put some? Well, you can keep on with this. I mean, it's a whole lot of fun. Just putting in 1 or 2 little bits of growth that are poking through the snows. Especially up over here, I'm going to put a few marks in, little bits of stuff against the posts. Going through like so. Maybe 1 or 2 up in here just to support these fence posts and the growth, and maybe a little bit of weedy stuff around the base of whatever that is. I'm going to bring a little bit of dark, maybe a little bit more foliage, 1 or 2 bits and pieces, and bring a little bit up in there. I want to come back to the other brush just for a second, because they're not as dark pointy marks as the sword liner will leave me. I just want to come in with a few faint taps of information there, like so. Now I'm actually making quite a bit of this up really, there's a lot in here, but I am leaving bits out and adding bits in, just seeing where I need to take this painting to finish it off. And as I said, we are pretty much done. I could have stopped 5 minutes ago, quite happily, but you know me, I keep on. Just adding little bits and pieces just to hopefully bring it to fruition. Just going to bring 1 or 2 dark bits in there. Just 1 or 2 flicks with this good old friend again. And just a little bit down in here, just 1 or 2 little taps of something that's just poking through, like so. Just a little bit of warmth into that violet. Doesn't want much. Just little bits and pieces, just to break things up a little bit. And I think we're done, you know. I think we're done. I've had a lot of fun with this. And, you know, this wasn't actually planned. I hadn't planned on doing any more videos for my channel this side of the new year, but I just felt that everybody had been so supportive over the year to the channel. I felt that it would be nice just to say thank you and do one last little watercolour or one last video of some description before the end of. And I'm going to bring this out for Thursday, because my normal Friday is of course New Year's Day, and I'm guessing many of you will be so full on with doing other things, much less wanting to sit and watch any videos that someone's put out. Just reinforce the edge shadow of that one there and under there, and that one too. What I haven't done is I haven't done the window, so let's just quickly put that window in place. I'm going to put in a suggestion of cool colours, and I'm going to predominantly use a bit of violet in there, a little bit of the blue, so I don't want it too green. I'll come back in with a bit more blue. Lots of things reflected in it, so I'm going to leave some of the idea of white paper just to suggest that there is a reflected surface. Like so, take it all the way up almost to the edge, down to there. Now I can come in and I can tap down on it, but I think we're pretty much sorted, and there is just a little bit of a dark line which I will put in through the top of this here. Just take that through there, Gotta be careful because I've just put that window in and it's gonna bleed into it like that if I'm not careful. But let's see what happens with that. I don't think it'd be too much of a problem. There you go. Take that down through the back there. There we are, one watercolour. I hope you're happy with that and I hope you've enjoyed it. And I look forward to catching each and every one of you in the new year with some more videos and different things that we're doing. There is a lot planned for the new year. I do plan on increasing as much as I can, but there will always be a Friday video and there will always be a Monday night live stream on the channel. So always look out for those, and I'd love to have your company, especially on the live stream, and saying hi in the chat. That would be fantastic. Okay everybody, I hope you've enjoyed that. I've had a lot of fun painting it, and it was just nice because I just wanted to say a big thank you to all of you who've supported me in the channel for the last year or so as it's been growing. And I wasn't going to put one out before the end of the year, but I felt I just wanted to take the time and say thank you all. So this is by way of a little extra video, and hope you get something from it anyway. And I do hope that each and every one of you stays safe and happy, enjoy your painting, and I catch each and every one of you next year, and I hope we continue this journey together and a whole lot more besides. So take care everybody, all the best for now, Happy New Year, bye bye.